Liwei rushed into the house, his mind a whirlwind, unable to think straight. The only thing on his mind was holding her in his arms, telling her how much he loved her, and never letting go. As he approached the door, he paused. There she was, sitting with his grandmother, her eyes wide with confusion as she asked who this stranger was and what she was doing in her house. In that moment, his body went weak, his muscles loosening. The one thing he had dreaded happening was happening right before him, just as Ming had warned. She had lost her memories, memories of him, of the time they had shared together. He stood frozen, watching her, his eyes darkening, not with anger this time, but with the unbearable weight of the pain inside him. He thought of rushing forward, of pulling her into his arms, of telling her everything, but he paused, remembering Master Shen's words. He thought about how she had ended up in this state because of him, and perhaps he realized this was a blessing in disguise, the only way she could remain safe. He thought of how deeply their lives were entwined now, how addicted he had become to her presence, and how displaying any affection could put her in even greater danger. Slowly, his heart heavy, he gave her one last lingering glance before turning to walk away. Before he could take a step, his grandmother appeared, rushing out from the room and standing in front of him. She asked where he was going and if he wasn't going to come in and see her. Liwei looked at her, his voice low, heavy, trembling slightly as he asked if she had forgotten most of what she once knew, just as Ming had said. His grandmother nodded, confirming that it seemed that way. He moved closer, his eyes softening slightly, and told her that he would leave Amara in her care, that she could tell her any story, say she was her adopted granddaughter, or whatever else seemed right, but that she must never mention him. His grandmother, still confused, asked why he was doing this. Liwei's voice was steady but laced with sorrow as he explained that this was the best way to protect her from his world, that his world was dangerous and full of threats, and that he needed to finish what he had started before stepping back into her life. He gave his grandmother one last glance, telling her to take care of Amara, to let her pursue her passion for studying, to make sure she continued at university and became the doctor she had always wanted to be. With that, he walked away, leaving his grandmother standing there, bewildered as she watched him leave. Liwei reached his car, his heart heavy, thinking about how he had regained his family's company but lost something far more precious in return. Just as he was about to open the door, Ming ran up behind him, stopping him in his tracks. He asked if he was leaving already, his voice edged with worry, and Liwei nodded silently. Liwei moved closer, telling Ming he shouldn't mention him to Amara, that perhaps her memory loss was the only way she could remain safe. Ming kept his eyes locked on Liwei, agreeing that his world was far too dangerous for such an innocent girl, a girl who only wanted to study and enjoy her life at university. Trying to console him, Ming told him not to worry, that the memory loss might not last long, and that soon she could remember everything. He promised that he would help in any way he could. Liwei nodded, offering a small, almost imperceptible thank you, before moving toward his car. Ming stopped him again, stepping closer, his voice heavy with concern, as he asked who had done this to Amara. He reminded Liwei that he had been so focused on saving Amara's life that he hadn't had the chance to find out, and then, leaning in, he asked if it had been Mei again. Liwei slowly turned toward him, his eyes cold and unwavering, and revealed that it had been Yan. Ming stood frozen, his body tense, moving closer as he finally spoke, asking Liwei again if he was certain it was Yan who had done such a cruel thing. Liwei's eyes stayed locked on Ming, his voice steady but sharp as he asked why Ming couldn't accept it, why he was so blind to see the kind of person Yan truly was. Ming met his gaze, explaining that he understood Yan's state of mind, that she had lost Liwei as well as her father, and that he knew she was capable of acting out of character. but he had never imagined she could go this far. Liwei remained still, his stare unwavering, and told Ming that she was not acting out of character, that this had always been who she was from the very beginning, and that now her true nature was being revealed. He stepped closer, his voice low but intense, as he admitted he knew how much Ming loved Yan, how he had always sought to see the good in her, but that now it seemed she was lost for good, beyond saving. He added that Ming was a good man, someone who always did the right thing and never sought to hurt anyone, and that he deserved someone who shared his values, because if he continued holding on to Yan, he might end up becoming like her. With that, Liwei turned toward his car, ready to leave, but Ming's voice broke through, asking him what he intended to do to Yan. Liwei froze for a moment, his eyes darkening as he slowly turned to face Ming. His voice was icy, cold, and unyielding as he told him that he was going to make her regret the day she was born, and that no one, not even Ming, would stop him. Without another word, he slid into his car and drove off, leaving Ming standing alone, a storm of emotions raging inside him. Ming couldn't believe that Yan would stoop so low, poisoning another human being with such a deadly substance. Liwei's words echoed in his mind. Was she truly lost, with no chance of redemption? Meanwhile, Liwei sat alone in the dimly lit bar, the weight of everything pressing down on him. His heart ached, his thoughts consumed by Amara, by every memory, every connection they had shared. The thought of being apart from her threatened to shatter him completely. This was the same woman he had grown attached to, the one he couldn't imagine going to bed without. He took a sip of his drink, the warmth hitting him like a wave, and continued to drink, one glass after another, oblivious to the world around him. Finally, the door opened. Kai walked in, his eyes scanning the room, and they fell on him, stopping in his tracks as he approached, sensing the storm brewing inside him. Kai sat beside Liwei, eyes fixed on him, and told him he had known he would find him here, that he had tried calling and Liwei hadn't answered, that he'd even gone to his place and he hadn't been there. Liwei said nothing, thumb tracing the rim of his glass as he drank slowly. Kai kept watching him and said he'd heard from Ming what had happened to Amara, that he knew Liwei was devastated, but at least she was alive. The worst had been avoided. Liwei finally looked up, voice flat as ice as he asked what was good about the woman he loved losing her memories and forgetting him. How was he supposed to live with that? Kai leaned back, trying for calm, saying he was sure it was temporary, that she would remember, that Liwei could help her recover memories, photos, keepsakes, little things that tied them together. It should be easy, he insisted, to bring her back. Liwei shook his head, the whiskey catching the light in his eyes, and told him he couldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. Kai frowned, confused. That was the most logical thing, wasn't it? Liwei said things were safer the other way, that he had too many enemies, too many people who wanted to see him crumble, and if they discovered Amara was his, they would use her. This time, she might not survive. He needed to finish the mission first, he said, and only after would he bring her memories back, if she still didn't remember. Kai watched him, disbelief written across his face. He said he didn't buy it. He'd seen how Liwei lost himself when Amara wasn't around, how he would wake at 5 a.m. to fetch her if she'd been gone a day. How, Kai asked, did Liwei plan to make himself into a man who could watch the woman he loved be someone else and not try to fix it? It sounded impossible, he said. Liwei took another slow sip and met Kai's eyes. He repeated that Amara didn't remember him, and that would make things easier for both of them. Then, almost teasingly, he asked Kai why he was suddenly concerned, reminding him that Kai had vowed to take Amara from him. Perhaps this was the perfect chance. Kai, stung, looked disappointed and asked if Liwei really thought so little of him. He explained he did what he did around Amara not to win her away, but to revive childish memories, to coax the real, softer liwei back, to show him there was life beyond revenge. Liwei said nothing. Kai inhaled, then told him that if liwei truly believed erasing the past would protect Amara, he wouldn't oppose it. He would help protect her in liwei's stead, watch over her when liwei could not. Liwei nodded once, a hard, grateful motion, rose, and said he had to go. Kai stood too and asked if he was fit to drive, that he seemed to have had too much. Liwei replied he was fine. Alcohol didn't touch him when he was stressed. He gave Kai one last look and walked out, leaving Kai alone at the table, turning the question over in his head, wondering what else he could do to help.